Hello, Dr. Sundstrom and classmates. This is Nicole Dalton, and this is my Week 6 Multimedia Discussion Board for MPA 594. For this assignment, we needed to pick 4 concepts from other classes. So for GPA, I picked the government's role in the United States economy and public policy alternatives. For PSML, I picked leadership styles and alternative dispute resolutions. The first concept is the government's role in the United States economy, and Adam Smith wrote the article, The Wealth of Nations, and he believed in a free market. His school of thought was that a person who follows their own self-interest could end up serving the common good. This could be seen in an example of a fisherman. They create livelihoods for themselves by providing fish to people who want to purchase them, meaning that the government doesn't necessarily need to be involved and doesn't need to be included in creating policies to restrict them from fishing because that's going to hurt their livelihood. And Lowy was also a supporter, would support this kind of concept because he was not a fan of the New Deal or marble cake federalism. He was just overall not happy with big government. And in a GPA question, this could be seen in the government's role in our everyday lives. The next concept is public policy alternatives, and I provided 3 different policy examples. First, rational policy, which focused on public gains and wanted to make sure that it wouldn't hurt the public at large in order to get this policy put through. And somebody who would support this is White, because the administration is a state of men and materials in making sure that the community that they serve is in their best interest. The next is incremental policy, and this is that the past policy can be modified moving forward, and that's not going to start all over when they need to make a change, because it's going to grow over time. And this would be an example that Lindblom would have said in his branch theory when it comes to decision making. And finally is group policy, and this looks at public policy balancing the influence of interest groups, so making sure that the people who are going to be affected by this have a voice in how this policy is going to be made. And a theorist who would support this kind of policy is Waldo, because you should be socially aware of economic, political, and social events and how this would influence the future of the administration. So that is taking into account those community stakeholders. Next is the PSML section, and the first concept that I selected was leadership styles. Some of the different leadership styles are autocratic, strategic, democratic, participative, supportive, collaborative, inspirational, and servant leadership. And I used one of the assignments that we had in our leadership course, the 3-minute, 3-hour, 3-day leader. And this is to show that when you're going through a process as a leader, you're going to need to transition into different kind of leadership styles depending on where you're at. So you may not necessarily be an autocratic leader, but at times you're going to have to pull that out in the best interest of your organization to make decisions, and this is going to be extremely important to utilize in our PSML paper. The last concept is alternative dispute resolutions, and this is to avoid formal litigation in court proceedings when 2 or more parties have an argument or disagreement, and these ADRs have different levels. So the first is negotiation, and that's sitting down together and getting to the bottom of what the issue actually is. The second is mediation, which is a little bit more formal, and this involves the participation of a neutral third party, and the mediator is going to suggest solutions to make the best decision to resolve the matter. And finally is arbitration, and this is the traditional model of litigation, and a final decision is going to be made by the arbitrator but not a judge. Arbitration is often legally binding, meaning that it's the arbitrator's final word, and that's going to be the solution, and both parties have to agree to abide by those decisions. And this is going to be important in our PSML paper because when you're making a change in an organization, there's going to be people who are not going to be happy with it regardless, and you're going to need the tools to be able to figure out how to resolve those, and these are 3 options to do so. For each section, I included the resources at the bottom of the slide, but I have also noted my for resources on this slide as well. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and good luck to all of you as we write our final papers.